So I recently purchased a junk lot of consoles. It came with 13 different consoles, all of which have issues. Now, purchased it, the per unit price was very good. It was a bit of a sticker shock, but junk consoles are going up in price, and to find a lot at that per unit price, I'm happy to take it in whatever conditions they are in. I haven't looked at this lot. I vaguely know, I can't even say I vaguely know. I looked through the lists, and a lot of them had issues that might be rather benign, something that at least I can manage with my parts and what experience I have. But I'm very curious to dig into these, since a lot of the recent ones I disassembled were consoles that were otherwise in perfect shape other than their screens were bad. So let me see what we got here. Charge port doesn't work. Has multiple... I'm not going to say I'm the best reader of cursive. Has multiple mining dudding prints. That might be like fingerprints? Perhaps? Just going to stick that right there. We'll randomly say there's no game inserted. Customer comment. Charge port bent. Charger will not go in place. On screen defective. Will not register. Stylus touch. Game will randomly say there's no game inserted. Charge port bent is just charge port destroyed. So inside the charge port, there should be a little tongue. Let me grab a working console here. This is my DSi. So inside there's this little black tongue, and it's supposed to be bent upwards. That's the point. So it kind of does look like it's straight in, but it is sort of bent down a little. So when I see charge port bent, I see this on Reddit sometimes. I have to kind of laugh. I'm like, man, this is completely normal. It's like you're just panicking at something that actually doesn't matter. So let's see if it came with any treats. It does come with an SD card or a stylus. That's kind of nice. Looks like it's in pretty good shape. Looks like an aftermarket one, I would reckon. Just kind of the texture. It doesn't have the Nintendo logo printed on it, and it's also black. So I'm going to get that into my little cleaning area. It's a little hard to say. That screw looks a little chewed up, but the feet kind of tell me that the console has not been opened. No game. Charge ports needs to be replaced. Bottom screen is a little scratched. Top screen looks okay. There's some scratches on the lens, but I mean, this sort of squiggly scratch right there might be a problem. As like cosmetically speaking, I would probably look into possibly replacing that. Well, let's see if it turns on. It does. Oh, look at that. These screens are in pretty good shape. Dies immediately. I'll get a good battery in it. So it looks like this battery compartment hasn't been opened either. Now the thing about it having problems with the game card slot, I'm gonna have to be very careful, because I don't want to go jamming my... Oh, this is an aftermarket battery. Look at this. 2,000 milliamp hours. I would like to test this thing to be completely and utter bullshit. This is an OEM battery that is sort of the undisputed, like, these things are, if you still have good OEM batteries, these things outperform any of this. Just, I'm not going to pretend to know why. I don't really know how batteries work in practice, but if they advertise a capacity greater than OEM, it's bullshit. Like, this is bullshit. So I'd be interested to actually run that through a battery tester just to prove that it is bullshit, because other people have proven that it is bullshit. So I will want to run a testing suite on it. Let me just see what the game card slot looks like, so I'm not jamming one of my kind of valuable R4 cards in there. Looks perfectly fine. I probably can't see it due to the angle. Excuse me, but nice and straight, nothing's weird. So I think I'm comfortable putting my DS Pico in it. Put an OEM battery in it. And we'll put the battery cover back on. It has a bit of finger crud on it. Like, ooh, that's some allspice right there. Yummy. But this thing is in actually pretty good shape. Looks like there's the water damage indicator sticker sort of migrated its way out. Hang on, was that even in the battery port? I was kind of wondering what like these two random stickers are. That looks like a water damage indicator sticker. Oh, they did get into the... Okay, that's water damage then. Console booted just fine. I really don't see any problem there. So bad charge port, that's easy enough to change. Digitizer looks like it would probably need to cycle that out as well. But I think, I mean, for the most part, I should probably keep these screens together. They match pretty all right. Okay, so I'll just establish sort of my testing protocol. So what I'll do is, this is sort of a light version of my final protocol I do for consoles. So in this case, I'm just going to be running this category down here. I'll kind of explain them as I go. I'm not going to focus too heavily on it because I can get a pretty good sense right away if something's wrong. Besides, I'm not gearing this thing up for sale, so I don't need to be super thorough. Just as long as it sort of sits my bare minimum. A lot of these parts are immediately going to go for sale, so I will be spending a little more time, but I tend to spend a lot more time when I'm working with fully assembled consoles. That being said, I'm going to keep this list near me just so I have a guiding star, even though I've done this far more times than I think I've cared to note. I'll sometimes just kind of lose myself in if a problem pops up. So the first test I want to do is motherboard and power board. Simple. It's basically, does the console turn on? Does it make it to the DSi menu? Does it open up an application? I'll use settings in this case. Yes. I do want to start making notes of this, other than the rather amusing message on it. So this is a DSi XL Burgundy. So I'll make note of what this console came out from. So DSi XL Burgundy. I'll grab the shell serial number in a little bit. Running version, US. Actually, US is kind of redundant because the U character in the version number tells me what region it is. Now the serial the serial number is really faint. It is WW444650908. And that's, other than the motherboard serial number, I really don't need to add anymore. Now, this didn't have any photos on it, so I'm not really going to worry about formatting it. If I see photos, I'll just try and format it. No need blasting somebody's personal info on the internet. Let me plug in my DS Pico. Clicks in nice. I heard it pop up. So with the DS Pico, it's running a piece of testing hardware from Nintendo's factory that will auto boot into it. So instead of me pressing A, which, I mean, I've already kind of not sold it very well with me blabbing. Instead of me just pressing A, I can just soft reboot and it will go straight into DS Pico. Let me move this X-Acto knife so I'm not accidentally grabbing it thinking it's a stylus. probably wouldn't do that, but I mean, I don't want to take that risk. So why I'm going into DSPico is there's two pieces of homebrew software I want to use for diagnosing. Funny enough, that one's named Diagnose. And the first test in that regard is tactile buttons. That's the word I'm looking for. So you'll kind of see why I like using this piece of software for tactile buttons. It creates a grid and it shows me if the buttons correspond, or if the buttons are sort of red, so to speak. Face buttons I'm usually never worried about. I haven't looked at the motherboard, so I don't really know the condition of it if it is water damage. That would be something that would sort of interrupt this. I do need to run an image retention test. I'll do that after I do the touchscreen test. I'll spend extra time on the shoulder buttons. Those tend to be the problems. Other than this shoulder button feeling really weird. So it doesn't have a good registered click to it. It's more muted. Feels weird too, a little spongy. It's not really springing up. Now, you would think, well, maybe it's the spring. No, the switch, the internal switch itself isn't really giving me that sort of feedback. It might be able to come back to life if I clean it, because it is registering. So I'll just keep that in mind. Okay, so next test I'll do is touchscreen, which if I'm replacing the touchscreen, it really doesn't matter if it works, but this is more motherboard testing, just to make sure it's sort of... Okay, there it goes. I thought it froze. Just to make sure that the motherboard is competent and reads the touchscreen, which behaves just fine. Okay, so I'm going to do what I call an image retention test, and that is so far the only test I can find that sort of picks out whether or not these screens are dying, so to speak. So what I'll do is I'll sit on this screen for a couple of minutes and switch over to the DSI settings menu, which is mostly just a gray background with UI elements over it. And what I'm going to be looking for is this checkered pattern, or these big buttons, or even the text on top. If any of that appears in DSI settings menu, it's not supposed to. And the screen looks really bad right now, but that's just camera recording it. It looks fine to me. In the meantime, I'm going to gently take out these screw covers. I use some 91% alcohol and syringe. These screw covers are held down with double-sided tape. Pretty good double-sided tape. So if you can get the alcohol underneath there, it will soften it up. It usually does a pretty good job. Right there, that one popped off really easily. Ooh, these are coming off really nicely, actually. They sometimes give me a little more of a fuss. Is it possible that these have been removed before? I mean, I don't really have any good indications. I mean, this is coming from a shop, so it looks like whoever owned this DSI wanted to really take care of it, so it's possible it went through another shop. I don't know why they didn't bother replacing the charge port of all things. I would think that would be largely easy to do for anyone who's somewhat experienced with soldering. My poor tweezers are coated in solder flux from when I took off the NAND chip of a DSi XL. I need to take care of that. It makes my tweezers sticky. I don't want that, especially not when I'm grabbing screw covers. And if I recall correctly, I think there are some pretty interesting DSIs in this lot. I think there's an error has occurred. It may even point to a specific error code. There we go. Let me grab my little screw cover container. This big fella have a big pillbox. Just haphazardly throw in there. Eat. I'll need this when I get the feet, so I'll keep it nearby. Let's go to the... I'm going to spread around this alcohol so it dries a little faster. It's been about 2 minutes, I reckon. So let's go back to DSI settings. No, they all look good. So I don't see any sort of indication that there's UI elements there. Nothing that I notice immediately. Sometimes soft resetting will betray as well console age. These look fine though, so I'm pretty happy with those. So let me do another test now that I'm thinking about it. These are tests that I don't have included in my paperwork. I mean, it's reading game cards all right. And it's sort of what I call, or sort of unofficially call the sleep disturbance test. I run into one console where it wouldn't go into sleep. It would sort of erratically flicker in and out of sleep. The best way to test that is grab Mario Kart, turn it up a little, drop a magnet right over the sleep sensor, which is actually right there. Screen's turned off. Power light is breathing. It's going in and out. The Wi-Fi light dimmed, and I don't hear anything. Console went into sleep just fine. Game card slot feels fine. Okay, I did the tactile buttons and the touchscreen. Next I do is speaker, microphone, and headphone jack. I mean, other than needing a little bit of cleaning in the port itself, it looks okay. Microphone port looks like it needs mostly cleaning. Okay, I'm going to combo this test with an SD card slot test. I have a piece of music loaded up in this. Let's go into the DSI sounds menu. La 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 la. I won't quit my day job. Microphone worked. The volume buttons are working as they're indicating up and down. Let's go with the music. It recognizes my SD card as well as the piece of music that's loaded up on it. So I'm going to listen to both channels, plug in my earbuds, and listen to the other two, or listen to these two channels. Yep, and I could hear it all. Next is cameras, and now I don't do anything too crazy. I just do the initialize. Is the picture rather crisp as far as DSI standards are concerned, and they look fine. Charge port I can't test for rather obvious reasons. So next officially is the game card slot, which apparently has problems. So what I'm going to do, put a game card in normally, loads up, and what I'm going to do is put my fingers on it, just a little bit of pressure, and sort of jiggle the card side to side. There's a tiny bit of play in the game card slot. Just a little bit. And then I'll just increase pressure on it while jiggling it from side to side. See if I can get this game card to disappear. Now I just clicked the eject, so this game card is coming out of the console, so at point of no return. I can't get it to disappear. Game card pops out. So I'll do that a couple times. Right there, it disappeared because I ejected it. Ejected it. Ejected it. All looks good. I might spend a little more time on this game card slot than I usually do on these disassembly videos, but next after that, I mean, it's a little hard to justify the realistic implications of that test specifically, but it kind of helps me sniff out problems with the game card slot. The next test that I do is a little more realistic, in which I'll just bang the console against my open palm. See if that game card disappears, or even if the console just turns off, which it didn't. So I'm just going to rattle through a few of these, just a small stack of game cards. So far, so good. I mean, I did only test 2 games. But these are my tester carts that are in largely good condition. There are some that are a little rough. Like, was it my Zuzu cart that had some corrosion on it? No, there's one of my game cards that have some corrosion on it that I tried cleaning off. I mean, I can't verify. The claims made by these notes that the game card will disappear. Because so far, all of my retail games are reading. Okay, I thought I saw it disappear, but I'm just seeing things. I mean, I can't repeat their findings. Let's see what I see. Let me read these comments again. So, charge port bent. Well, busted. Charger will not go in because it's busted. Places on screen defective. Okay. Will not register stylus touch. Did not confirm that. Games will randomly say there's no game inserted. Also did not confirm that. I don't exactly know what they're talking about. Either they have a testing protocol that's somewhat more thorough than me, or yeah. Let's get this baby nice and stripped. I need to kind of clear off my desk over here so I can put parts. Parts that I know are good that I can just immediately put for sale. Alright, firstly, I need to get these feet off. These feet are a little less difficult than the top screen, by far. A little more to grab onto. Sometimes you poke through it, but you know. Oh yeah, I won't be able to get this motherboard for sale because it needs a game card slot. Or not a game card slot, a charge port. I'm going to make note of that. Needs charge port. I'll add that to my digital records at a later date. Probably tomorrow. Let's get this all nice and taken apart. Get rid of that rubbing alcohol. Move these screw covers to a safe location. That was a brilliant idea. Grab some water. My good OEM battery. Chuck that into the to clean pile. Let me grab my screws. I can just start sorting away. USB tester is making quite a bit of noise. I'm jiggling around the cable. So this console has been opened before. What the heck? There's just a big goober of solder right here. Like a really just big frickin' goober. I can tell you that is not factory. Oh, Jesus. I mean, it all looks okay. Let me take this rear shell piece completely apart. Looks like it's gold and black screws. Distinction is rather meaningless, but there is a difference. They're actually physically different screws. Now, the right shoulder button was fine. I can immediately turn that over. The left one needs some work. Oh, right. I'm not going to be able to take that out. Duh. I got talking before I got done thinking. I do want to sort of press these buttons outside of the console just to kind of see. I know it's not the spring, just based on how it felt. I'll inspect the spring, of course, just to make sure everything's on the up and up. Yeah, it looks fine. Usually the only thing that can befall these poor springs is if they get caked in rust. What the? Is that my rubbing alcohol? I mean, perhaps it was my rubbing alcohol. It just seems like I didn't think I used that much. Maybe I did. I can't really identify. It was just like the back of this button was just kind of glossy. Whoa. The back plate for the SD card yeeted itself at me. Forgot to take that out. And there's a little tab in here you push. Lift that out. Yeah, that button doesn't feel right. Like, there should be a rather good audible click to it. I don't know. I see it right here, too. It's sticky, so I think this thing had some liquid damage. I'm just going to toss these in my cleaning pile. I mean, that was indicated by the charge port. Some of this will be my rubbing alcohol, but there will be a degree of this that is just soda or something. Gross. Like that. Like, look at that. Ugh. It's not my rubbing alcohol. I did not use that much. To the cleaning pile you go. Alright, to the cleaning pile you go. I can try and clean this to see if I can get it back to life. See if I can sort of flush that stuff out. So what I'll do is fill this cap full of rubbing alcohol. Because it did read, it just feels really gross. Fill this cap with running alcohol and just try and press it a bunch. See if I can just get whatever's in there to flush out and see if I can get that sort of very particular clicking sound and feel to come back. I want to use the edge of my... I mean, it already sounds better. I'm going to want to test it before I do anything. What the heck? There's like a little yellow streak in my cup. Is that always there? Maybe. I'm going to dump this rubbing alcohol when I'm done with this. I think I may have flushed out, perhaps, what was in there, or maybe that was just in there from when I was cleaning rust off of a motherboard. Sort of doing a... It's getting better. This is like one of those moments where I wish I had like an ultrasonic cleaner that I could just plop the end of this in and just let it go to work. But I mean, it's a bit overkill. I don't think I could really utilize a ultrasonic cleaner except for cleaning parts. Like cleaning shoulder buttons with something like that, that would be amazing. Instead of me relying on a toothbrush. That already sounds a lot better. But I'm just going to put that one aside. This one's fine though. I had no problem with either the SD card slot or the shoulder button. That will just be dumped in my little trash can for it to happily evaporate on its own time. Get a corner of my paper towel here and sort of wipe that out. Whatever that was, or if that's sort of remnant of rust, just make sure that's nice and clean. I shouldn't really need it anymore, at least not right now. So this Wi-Fi, I noticed that the cable routing of this was just obnoxious. I'm hoping they at least sort of somewhat routed this okay. I mean, so far whoever repaired this, I'm very impressed. They used the right screwdriver. They put the feet back on, all the screw covers back on in a manner in which they held. Don't know what's going on with the charge port though. I don't know why it looks like the way it does. It's not even sitting against the board. Oh, I'm going to have to look at this under a microscope. I was impressed up until I saw the solder job on the charge port. How about that? And we'll just... I won't leave it at that, but we'll just say so far, I mean... I have thoughts. The power daughter board I had no problem with. However, it was sitting in a battery bay that had a water damage indicator tripped. I don't see anything. All the buttons worked. I don't see any rust, corrosion, anything nefarious. I'll sort of wipe around the battery contacts down here. I think I see some shimmering, just to make sure that none of that like soda or crap. None of that makes a home there. Nothing too crazy, just sort of. Yeah, the rest of this looks fine, so I mean, I'm not worried about it. Go that straight into the cell pile. Get this motherboard out, and then I can scrutinize. I'll have to mark both these screens as good. Bottom screen is more blue. Will I remember that? I actually don't know. I'll try and write that right away. Make sure I get all my screws in the right spot. I mean, I think I'm to the point to where I can probably identify all these screws just by looking at them, but when I'm just blindly picking out screws, I might not look at them that closely. I mean, they kind of routed the Wi-Fi antenna correctly. They missed a spot. It's really tout. No wonder why they had so much excess, because it's supposed to go right there in that channel. Oh, Jesus Christ. What the heck? Okay, yeah, I'm going to criticize. There's a lot of strange decisions here on this charge port. Firstly, they ripped all the pads off, which is fantastic. All the important mounting pads. They also didn't seem to bother to get rid of their flux, but I mean, what the hell's going on here? So the pads that these mounting posts go through are just completely gone. And substituted is just this shitty wire. I mean, at least it's soldered on there pretty good, but I don't know why it's there to even begin with. Is it even soldered to anything? Like, I don't know if they punched a hole in the board. Oh, they soldered it to these traces. Okay. That's not really necessary. That ground point is just for mounting. But I mean, look at this charge port. Like, it's lifted. It's physically, like, floating off of the motherboard. Those pads are just completely gone. Goodness gracious. I feel like I should just fix it right now. Let me not get ahead of myself here and take note of the motherboard serial number. 141160112 U01E6NNT negative A04. I don't know if I have enough gusto, but I mean, it wouldn't take that long. Everything else looks pretty good. I detected no other problems, so other than this charge port being kind of obnoxious. Oh, I can't leave it like it is right now. I need to do something. All right. Let me grab a charge port. I'm kind of curious if they recycled an OEM, because this looks like an OEM. Because the aftermarket ones don't look anything like that. I'll put this aside. This is the upper assembly. Oh, I should write on the screen, actually. Sharpie, blue, good digi. I'll kind of determine whether or not I actually want to use that digitizer. It is scratched. I'm not really in the mood right now to sort of scrutinize whether or not that's enough scratching to warrant completely being replaced. flood this poor thing with solder flux. It's going to be kind of off screen. Well, I guess I can alleviate that. Desolder it from underneath it. Probably get my actual solder iron going. I don't really like removing charge ports this way. I do kind of singe the board a little. So, I mean, here I am judging a rather shoddy job, but I'm probably really not going to do much better, but I know it will work. So, I mean, +1 me. Okay. That suck away all the yummy smoke. Looks like I did rip up the pad for the positive. That shouldn't be a problem. Make sure it doesn't spontaneously combust inside my little trash can. Okay. Oh boy. Both of the mounting pads are gone. That did not come with the one I just removed. Let me get all this old solder off. I have to make sure the fuse is also not dead. See what the back looks like. That freaking wire is still there. I need to get that off. The problem with using a wire is you don't really need to ground the shell, but I mean, when all the other grounding pads are literally ripped off the board, I suspect, or I suppose you really had no other choice. I mean, a wire. I'll singe the edge of the board a little, but I mean, I forgot I still had my microscope feed on. I'll have to bring it over. Get off the old flux that was under here. My god. Okay. Well, let's take a peek. So right there, all 4 of the mounting pads are just completely gone. So I need a pointing instrument. There's a pad right there, there's a pad right there, and then these 2 circular vias that have flux in them are just completely gone. There's the negative trace, there's the positive trace. I did pull this pad off, but with how easy it came off, I'm thinking it was already kind of fatigued, because it just snapped off just like right there. Let me check to make sure that fuse is good. I might want to brush that board off a little better. Fuse is good. That's good. Let me properly get rid of my microscope here. Be careful which way I'm brushing with this little connector here. You can bend it up and break it off. Try and get that flux out of those through holes. Okay, I think that's good. Let me remount it here. It's going to be a lot of kind of eyeball work here. I'm going to have to change my iron tip. What I do need to do is sort of prep this, because all of the ports are just, or all of the little legs on it are just pointed straight down, which won't work. I need to flare them up. Now I usually trim the actual contact legs, since the negative is still there. I'll only trim that one, because the positive I'm going to have to utilize just a little bit more length than I usually do. I mean, these mounting legs won't really grab onto anything because there's nothing to grab onto. Oh, I didn't need to bend this leg. This is part of the through hole assembly. Oopsie. I mean, it's not really critical to the structure of it when it has nothing to grab onto to begin with. Yeah, I'll clip off these legs. These legs just aren't going to grab onto anything. They're rather redundant anyway. The shell of the console kind of acts to hold the charge port in place. This actually might be somewhat difficult. My usual point that I grab onto first is this pad over here. I have to be a little creative, I think. If I mount the negative and the positive and then just flood the back of the charge port with flux, I should do it, I think. I just need to make sure I have it mounted quickly. I need like a really tiny pair of vice grips to hold those things in place. The thing about these aftermarket ones is the through-hole feet aren't the exact size. They're a lot narrower. Got the positive on. Sit about right there, I think. Let me see if I can get if I can just flood this area with solder and it will grab onto the conjoining exposed pins. I need my bigger tip. I mean, it's in there. I do have it grabbing onto those legs. Grab my other tip. Might be getting about high time to retire this tip. I mean, I talk shit, but then I also put it in a little crooked. What was me? Alright, that looks a lot better. Make sure that my connections are good. And they are. I think I'm going to clean this up and probably call it a day, actually. This took a little longer than I expected. Well, not exactly, but definitely getting a lot more tired than I expected. Just making sure I don't get flux in the little backlight connector. end on a bit of a humble brag. Ugh. Not drop my microscope. Okay. Stay. Yeah, right. All right. So I got charge port. Look at that. A big glob of solder, just like I talked shit about. But it's reaching over to that pad. I can probably actually edge cut just that little tiny tip off. So it's not rubbing up against the backlight connector. Not a problem. That looks a little better. Since I had to chase that trace down a little bit. Looks like I got a little bit of solder on the end of that fuse, but no big deal. Got that point on the ground pad. Nice and secure. And then that's about as good as I'll be able to get it. Just bridged over a couple good blobs. Like I still have some solder flux to get rid of. Or just flux. And I mean, it kind of sucks not having those vias there. Because those are good mounting points, but this should keep it pretty secure, all things considered. Nice. Now, a lot of that like goo I see is, I think that's just remnants from the mounting pads that were attached to the silk screen. That's just like the residual like adhesive maybe. But that charge port should be good. I'm gonna have to test it obviously, but I'm fairly happy with the progress on this so far. And the rest of it should just come apart pretty easily. Got the charge port replaced, so I kind of want to put it back together just to make sure that works. I was kind of curious if there was anything I could do to maybe mount this charge port just a bit better. Just give it something a little more to grab onto. I think it will be structurally fine, but it's not holding on to as much as it usually does. Like, I mean, not at all. Barely holding on to anything. The shell does support it. I mean, it has its own cutout right here just for the charge port, just to hold it in place. And just the clamping pressure between these two consoles should keep it from like bucking up. So I'm just wondering, maybe I should put some like UV glue there. Just something to really help it just hold down. I just don't want to do anything too permanent. Just so this always has the option of having a replacement. And you know what? I think for now, I think I'm okay with it. I don't need to be introducing like bits of wire or like a back plate or anything too crazy. I was kind of thinking of maybe feeding a wire through the via, kind of like what it was before, but instead of stressing it to connect to a ground plane, which I'm not necessarily too stressed about. I don't think right now it even is connected to a ground plane. I should probably double check that. It is grounded for a reason, so I should probably at least respect that. Because right now it isn't. So then the idea would be, if I go with my original idea and I feed a wire through, solder it to the side of the charge port, feed it all the way through, connect it to the ground, to these ground points, mainly the 2 test points that are right here, feed it through again, solder it on the side of the charge port, basically strap it down, essentially. It's like a tiny ratchet strap. I think I have a pretty thick wire. This white wire should be a pretty good gauge. Because I'm less worried about the ground, more worried about the just structural integrity of the thing, because, I mean, there's nothing holding this poor thing on. Oh, this is some pretty thick gauge wire, solid core. So this should hold on to it really nicely. Not going to get exact length, but this should be more than enough. Just something for me to hold on to. I don't want it to be too terribly thick, because that might be a little bit of a problem actually feeding it through the via. I should have probably checked that. It doesn't need to be too crazy, but... Ooh, look at that. So it goes right through the via. I could even bend it down a little and then just solder it to the side of this charge port. I got that wire poking through. Now can I get it through the other side? Yes, I can. Okay, this wire is perfect. Let me get my iron going. Yeah, I was looking at my tip. The tip I said I needed to retire, and yes, it does need to be retired. I didn't actually know I could damage a solder iron tip the way I did, but I have been using this thing for over a year, so maybe it is just time to finally retire it, but just the entire like back end is just like shaved down, and you can actually see that it's kind of hollow inside. Well, I guess you can't really. But this thing has seen a few too many. Few too many, so time to get it retired. Buy a new solder tip. I can try and put this under the microscope. It might be a little difficult. Just make sure everything's ready over here. So the idea here is I should probably just strip off a lot more wire. So I want to feed it through and then bend it. If I do something like that, grab my tweezers. And then probably the next technician that opens this thing apart is going to wonder what the hell I was doing, but... Actually, I probably won't be able to show it that well, but... The idea is I fed it through, I'm going to run it parallel with the charge port, and then just solder it to the end of that charge port, and then that will be wrapped around the back end and done to the other side. Hopefully to just give it enough to hold it down. That's sort of the plan. It doesn't need to be perfect, but just having that extra support is going to give me a little more peace of mind. I'm not so worried about the grounding of the casing itself. That's something I could easily rectify, but I'm more worried about the structural integrity of it. Because these charge ports take quite a bit of abuse. And for it to have absolutely no mounting points left is very unsettling. I mean, I've ripped the little vias out. I've ripped these little, like, well, I should actually be pointing to it. Like, I've ripped one of these out before. Like, it's not impossible. I also very occasionally rip these off, these little side pieces, because they're not actually connected to anything. They're just glued down. But to rip all of them off is quite a feat, I would say. Okay. I really like that position right there. Some flux on it. Shouldn't take too much. I don't want to leave too much solder on there. I might need to use my other tip to put a little more heat. There it goes. Just getting that charge port hot enough to actually grab onto the solder. There we go. That's a nice connection. I'll kind of try and show it. This is an awful angle for my microscope. I just gotta make sure not to melt the charge port. The plastics in it are very, very susceptible to being melted. So yeah, that's a nice good mounting connection. Okay, so the idea here now is to sort of lay it flat and then sort of wrap it around, connecting to the 2 test points as I go. Sort of acts to ground it at the same time. So, I mean, I'm killing a few birds with one stone. I might have to undo my little joint right there. Or I mean, it's kind of working out. These are all connected to the same sort of ground, so they don't necessarily need to be perfect. I could even solder the leg to that. I'm just trying to see how I should be routing this. Need to take a little more of that sheathing off. I'll estimate I need only a 1/4 inch more. I'll be a little generous. I don't mind having a little too much to snip off. Okay. So what I should probably do is actually feed it through and then just kind of see where I'm sitting, see where my feed through point is. This is very difficult to do under a microscope, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. Ideally, I'd kind of like it in the same spot. So those tweezers are not meant to be bending wire this stout. There we go. So I'd kind of like it within the sort of boundary here, so I'll push it inside. Which means I should probably undo this big solder joint I have for this leg. Let's see if I can do this without flux. I don't accidentally want to solder the wire to it, actually. It'd be a little counterproductive. Alright, that kind of works. Which I think I did a little, but I mean, okay. I did make this a little more difficult for myself. Is it not over here? Oh, here it is. I knew I had it close. If it doesn't want to get out of the way, I'll take it out of the way. There we go. Perfect. I need to check something, actually. Okay. Just something about it looks a little, the charge port looks a little strange to me. I was hoping I just didn't accidentally melt it with too much heat. But it's solid. before I go jumping as shadows, I'll just assume I'm still in the clear. That actually should be good. Now let's see. Get this bent down 90 degrees. I have to snip a little off the end, which I kind of expected. Try not to bend this more than I need to because I don't want to fatigue it off. That's definitely far more of a custom job than I'm used to. Variety is the spice of life, I suppose. That's nice. I like that. Well, let's get everything addressed under here. So I want to solder the legs to these, to this, as well as this test point back here. Test point 12. Yeah, kind of something like that. Not only will that ground it, but it should also be a much more sturdy support. I'm far more confident in that holding up. So we have this piece of pretty thick gauge wire going through, connecting to test point 12. I have it grabbing onto both of the legs, through-hole legs. And then on this side I have the wire grabbed parallel on each side of the port. I was kind of looking in it. Hoping I didn't damage the port, but it looks fine. These ports, I know if I accidentally stray a bit on my hot air, I can just completely melt them. Sometimes it's on purpose if I'm taking them out. It's just like I don't really care about the old one, but in this case I want to keep it, especially with the immense amount of work I'm putting into it. And check it. If it's running ground, it should be fine. I am more concerned about if this will impact how it sits in the shell. Not to say that I didn't consider that, but I'm going to clean it up first before I make any of that. Any of those distinctions. I want to put this back together to test it anyway, so this will be a good chance. Nothing should be inhibited on this side of the board, it's just the opposite side should be a bit interesting. Okay, while that dries, I can see if it's grounded. Should be. Now part of the circuit. Again. Ooh. It's connected to test point 12, isn't it? Hold on a tick. Thought I got it connected. Maybe I didn't. Sure looks like it is. There's that via right there. Should be connected to the test point as well. Interested. It is connected. I wonder what test point 12 is associated with. Hopefully that's not the positive plane and I just made a mistake. I guess, you know, that's the first time I've done that. Oh, yeah. Okay. So test point 12 was, I think that's the positive. Let me just confirm here. It is. Oopsie. That's a no-no. I don't want to ground that to the wrong thing. All right, well, I'm glad I caught that. What exactly would happen? Probably nothing. Give me a charging error. Or blow the fuse. One of the two. I have an idea. It's only going to make this area look far more uglier than it already is, but you know what? I'm committed at this point. So I can try and shift this whole wire loop over a little bit. Oh, that was actually a lot easier than I expected. All right. And then I should be able to connect it to this test point, 15, which is a part of the ground. There we are. Now let's try that. Just have to make sure it's actually not making contact with that. Actually, I think it is. Reaching over and grabbing it, I think. Or if I can sneak over and maybe suck up that little bit of solder so it doesn't cause a problem. I was thinking of maybe putting some Kapton tape over it before I shifted everything over, but I was able to shift this wire over a little considerably more than I expected. Okay, I think that got it. The light reflection's kind of killing me. Yep. Nice tinned test pad, but don't really need it. I'm looking for my brush. Here it is. Alright, so now let's try it. That's better. I'm not even sure if grounded is the right term. I'm not going to pretend to understand. A lot of this electrical engineering stuff is just black magic. But it's connected to the points where it needs to be connected. Either that's like the neutral plane or whatever. Because this device doesn't necessarily connect to a wall, so it can't really go to the ground. Okay. Just gonna look at it just a little bit more, maybe give it a little more of a brush off, just to make sure I got everything off. I don't expect this to be much of an issue. It just depends on what the upper shell portion right above the charge port looks like. Because it is accounting for two big humps right there from the through-hole legs. So there is some amount of expected, like, clearance. Whether or not that clearance goes back as far as this wire, I don't know. Give that a moment to dry. I'll wipe off my poor tweezers. So I don't track flux everywhere. And I mean, for like a custom repair job, I think I did pretty alright. I probably didn't need to loop it back this far. I just needed to get it back far enough to connect it to one of these two residual traces. Let me just make sure I'm not connected to positive. I'm not. Okay, so I want to kind of get... I do want to put everything back together, but I did just want to do like a rough test fit to see kind of how this would look. So it sits right here. And just see kind of how, if at all, it sits up. I mean, yeah, because you can see the two impressions that are left. I think it might have a problem. The two impressions for the charge port legs that go through. I need to grab a reference. Okay, yeah, those are going to impede. Well, darn, okay. I might have to modify that a little then. So what's happening is it's kind of doing what I was expecting it. It's lifting it up, so this part of this edge of the board, or this screw hole, isn't making good contact. It's lifted off the board just a little bit. So it looks like my clearance is just within like this range here. So let's see if I can get like maybe a rough idea of where that would be. It's like edge of the board, back. What would that be? Maybe like within this little channel right here. It's where my working distance is. 2.5 millimeters. Oh, 2.2 inches. I mean, I'm on the wrong measurement. 6 point, almost 7 millimeters. That sounds a little better. So then my range here is from, ooh, I was actually pretty close. I'm actually very close. So from the edge of the board to about there is my working. It's as far back as I can go, and I'm just a little too far back. What I might do is snip those two wires and then just join them together. And then maybe use one of the fraction. I kind of have an idea baking. Let me just keep my calipers somewhat measured. I'm gonna work with 6 millimeters. That'll give me a little more, a bit of a more of a constraint. So I need to clear test point 5 completely, I think. That will be my, sort of my farthest I can go back. What that will mean is I'm gonna have to get really creative here. Is this something I should have measured before actually getting everything soldered down? Yes, but, you know, where's the fun in that? I like doing the same thing over and over again. Okay. I have a rough idea. It's going to make it look a little, not so much janky, but what I might do is have these wires operate independently. Kind of explain what that means when I get it. So what I'm thinking of doing is just nipping both wires and then just connecting them to these rear legs. So instead of just having one kind of wire function as almost like a strap, it'll just be two wires mounted on the side, bent through at double 90-degree. Should easily be enough to, well, it's going to be a lot better than what I originally, or not originally had, but what I originally didn't have, which was nothing. The second one will definitely look a lot more jank than my first one, but you know what? Both will be connected where they need to be. Shouldn't impede the shell. Alright, I'll kind of show what I did here. So instead of having a loop, I just fed the wire through, bent it back, and then connected it to the two residual traces from where those vias got completely ripped out. I believe the other traces are intact. Yeah. I don't know if I need to suck this. Yeah, I should probably get rid of that old solder from that test point. It's kind of tenting on me a little. Okay. Get more rubbing alcohol. Oh, they look so pretty. Doesn't really look like that leg is attached to that wire really well, but I mean, it is attached to the outer portion of the charge port, so, I mean, I'm fairly okay with it. This will be one structurally tough charge port. Yep, still good there, electrically. Okay, so calipers about 6 millimeters. That's operating well within. I just don't know. Hopefully they're not high enough, or they're not too high. I mean, that is good enough. Like, that's sitting pretty much almost flush. It is lifted just a touch. I almost can't even say a touch. So now the edge of this board is no longer lifted up a little. Like, I don't even see it moving. At least not enough to be like, oh no, board flex. Like, it's lifted up probably within a margin of error. So, cool. Alright, my little area over here is an actual nightmare. I think I had a cat crawl on my desk and knocked over my Tower O game cards. Okay, just fold that over. I don't really need to see these notes anymore. They were not very enlightening. Okay, I want to get this together. I want to try out that shoulder button that I cleaned, see if it's any better. It sounds a lot better. So I think whatever was spilt on this console just got in that button. And it sounds fine. And I'm guessing since it read, it will probably be okay. I don't have to do anything too crazy here. I do kind of want to feed this in just a little better. Now I get to see if the charge circuit's okay. Usually, pretty sure they usually will survive a bad charge port, but when it's just those exposed wires in the charge port, usually that will take out the fuse. Either they touch together or somebody tries jamming their charging cable in thinking, well, obviously it will charge, the contacts are there, but then those wires get crossed and blow the fuse. I'm not really, those are coming out anyway, I don't need to be too specific. Just checking to make sure that the shoulder button works. I should probably get both shoulder buttons in just to make sure, or just so I have a reference of what noise and sort of what feel I'm looking for. Don't need the camera. I do need the digitizer though. Which means I might have to fish out my shoulder buttons. I might not put the hardware in them. I don't know yet. Hopefully, well, it might not need it, but maybe component EM1 might need to be reflown as well. The solder joints look a little strange, like they've been touched with a iron or something. They just look a little strange to me, at least. It might work perfectly fine, but Get my microscope turned off. Okay. I'm not so much worried about the volume button. As much as I don't really want to clip everything in, I think that's just going to be the easiest. Shoulder button. And then I'm not grabbing the springs and stuff, just grabbing the actual pieces. Ooh, I can already tell those are that's a lot better. It's kind of coming through my microphone, but that's the right one. Then that's the left one. Bit of a different pitch, but I mean, it's not that bad. Okay, this will be, I'm gonna have to do this kind of upside down. Why am I doing this to myself? I feel like I'm working on my capture card system again. I can't plug these upside down. Oh, I know my problem. I was plugging the wrong one into... Oh, gee whiz. That's why I shouldn't do something different. Okay. I'll just slide these in. Now this shell's a little damaged. It's pushing a piece of plastic down into the shoulder button. So when I go to like kind of clamp it together, there we go. That's better. So kind of what I meant by that is up here took an impact, so it sort of deformed the plastic down a little. I just pushed the plastic back up. All right. This is going to be kind of a loose fit of everything. So I got a battery in. I want to test the charge port real quick because that is the most dramatic fix. Grab my USB tester. I'll check for a couple things here. One, does it work? If the fuse is still good, then I don't expect any downstream components to be impacted at all. The thing turns on, so at least one of the fuses is good. So we'll see. So what I'm going to look for is a solid orange charge light and an amp draw. And we get both. Bit of a trickle at first, but it'll jump up to 0.5 eventually. And then what I like to do is jiggle it around. I'm going to be about as aggressive as I usually will be for a console to see if that orange light turns off. Which it doesn't, which means that tells me all of my joints are good. It is a new charge port, so it does hold on to the charger pretty good. I'm very pleased. Okay, carefully open this thing up. And it is saying it's charging. So, as far as I can tell, that was a very successful install and slight modification. Okay, let's get this unplugged, get my DS-Pico in so I can test the shoulder buttons very carefully as everything is still in pieces. Yeah, I'm very pleased with how this left shoulder button turned out. It just had some, like, soda or something in it. Once I was able to get it all nice and flushed out with the rubbing alcohol, I detect nothing wrong with it. Other than how the button is actually, well, the way it's just kind of sitting together feels a little weird, because none of it's really clamped together with screws. But yeah, I'm perfectly happy with how it's reading and how it sounds, especially. So that clears all of these parts, so I can finally get it fully apart. I always lose my favorite pry tool. Oh, here it is. Okay, get these cosmetic buttons back in my cleaning bag. This shoulder button unlatched. Put it in my good pile. I like it when I add stuff to my good pile. And everything else is also good. I have no problems at all. Other than the rather dramatic procedure done to this charge port. Console is in good shape. Before I forget, I do want to hit the headphone jack with just some rubbing alcohol. Or I might just dry brush it, because it has some Sharpie on top I really don't want to deal with. Yeah, and that's really all it needed. Just getting rid of that little bit of dust and debris. I'll probably take a Q-tip to the game card slot. Yummy. There we go. Then I can add to the paperwork, no known issues. No known issues, pass test. Alright, then the rest will just be as easy as stripping this down for parts. I never have space. I need a bigger desk. Oh, God. That should not be offering resistance. Like these membranes should just fall out. It was just like fighting back. I wonder if this B button is actually going to come out. Oh, it is. Okay. Ugh. I'm just going to wash these as well. I don't know where that soda really got in from. I'll have to inspect the ribbon cable for the top screen to see if it's just covered in goo. Doesn't look like it. Looks like it might be fine. Okay, so everything's going into there. I know this top screen hasn't been taken apart because the pieces of tape have not been punctured in order to dig into those screws. At least there's somewhere somebody hasn't been. Alright, looks okay up here. Odd that this piece is loose. Maybe my confidence in somebody not being up here is not a very correct observation. Because the wire routing for the speakers just looks a little strange. I might just be looking for something that just doesn't exist. Maybe that's just how they looked out of the factory. I mean, even though that charge port repair was a bit ghastly when I first got it, everything was put together nicely. So, what can I say? Maybe this top screen was put together very nicely again. So much so I barely noticed. There are times when I'm taking consoles apart, you know somebody's been in it. It's like, whoa. Somebody went at it with like a drill. Right. Speaker. Hinge looks fine. It's not covered in stuff. Ooh. Feels a little gummy. I also might just be looking for differences as well. Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's gummy because it has just crap right there for one. Get it nice and nestled in there. All right, it looks like it's not super sticky. It doesn't have goo on it, so I'm pretty pleased. Put those over there. Don't know what I'm gonna do with that. Get the hinge ring off. Oh boy, it's nice and You know what? I'm thinking I'm gonna clean that. Chuck that hinge ring in my clean pile. All right, let's get this fit back together. I like to clean all the shells this one unit. All right, that's that. Empty shell.